So this is a little odd. I've been reading for the last few weeks that, Obama's been waiting for his down to the wire to pull a fast one on Israel as far as the whole settlement thing. We need to find a two-state nation. We need to essentially make Palestine a recognizable state or government, which would mean if we do that through the UN Security Council or whatever, then Israel, you can't keep bulldozing their area and adding more new homes. And nothing would ever come of that. Nothing would ever come of that. So they said, when Obama starts to get towards the end of his term, like really close, we have a feeling he's going to find a way to let this go through. He doesn't want to do it now, of course. He's going to wait to the last minute. And that actually has just happened. So, of course, that was a conspiracy theory I've been reading about for the last few months. More recently, back up in the air again in recent weeks. And I see today, at least yesterday, I should say, Friday, UN passes resolution calling for end to Israeli settlements. Now, I read that Donald Trump did tweet in regards to this at some point, where today or again Friday, something along the lines of, when I'm in office on the 20th or whatever, January 20th, we're gonna have to relook at the UN, or we're gonna make changes at the UN, something in response to what just happened with this whole UN passing the resolution. Now, one thing you have to understand is that the United Nations was called the League of Nations back in the early 1900s, maybe 1930s, I think, when they first tried to pull that together. It's essentially another American-created group. So naturally, if we're going to create something, we're going to have veto power. And by chance, we have veto power. So when it came, interesting story. And I'm going to start with a very short Zero Hedge article, and then there's one from The Hill that talks a bit about it. So what we did, or Obama did, is we're not going to vote at all. We're going to abstain. So we'll let everyone else deal with this. And everyone else easily voted yes, we can't have Israel taking over Palestine any longer. We need a two-state solution, etc. I had a feeling this was going to happen. And sure enough, as I've been saying, been following this stuff for a while, but recently, hey, it was looking like we bet Obama's going to do this right before his term ends. And sure enough, he didn't. But did. He didn't vote. We abstained, but we let everyone else vote. And isn't it amazing when America, with its veto power, doesn't do anything, the rest of the United Nations Security Council easily passes such a resolution. Now, Trump is not happy with this, apparently, because he's a big supporter of Israel. And I know a lot of people try to quote the Bible and, Israel, any nation that goes against Israel. The Israel that's around today is not, under any circumstances, the Israel that the Bible spoke of, okay? This is a complete different animal. It didn't even exist until 1948. Once again, the United States got involved and helped create this thing in its current form. God's Israel, or whatever you want to call it, does not do the things that Israel of today is doing, such as bulldozing the Palestinians' houses. I remember watching a video on YouTube of an interview of a former Israeli soldier whose parents were very high level, both mother and father in the Israeli army, very high level. And he came across saying how everything they're doing is wrong, how they treat these people like animals. The Palestinians are treated like animals. They have certain holidays that they support, and if the Palestinians come outside in any way, they can shoot them and kill them, all kinds of stuff. And this is his firsthand account. I remember watching this video probably, I don't know how long ago it was, 2 years ago, a year ago. So I'm not in favor of the current Israel, not even kind of. On 9/11, and I think Trump said this in his campaign speeches, about the dancing Israelis, the cheering and dancing Israelis. That was allegedly false news, fake news, conspiracy that turned out to be true. And one of the websites that was quoting this, whether it was the New York Times or Washington Post, was ragging on him about this nonsense conspiracy. And then we found out that they actually had an article themselves about the exact same thing back when it happened, 2001. And what happened was on 9/11, as the buildings were being hit, a lady looked out her window, and this may have been in New Jersey, if I recall correctly, and sees down in the parking lot, there's a bunch of these Middle Eastern-looking men by a van that were dancing and cheering and whatever. Police officer found the van, pulled them over, and all kinds of incriminating evidence, by the way, was inside that van. And that police officer refused to talk after that. And that was the end of that story. But these men were Israeli. Okay? A lot of people say, well, the charges had to be put in the two Twin Towers. They fell like an absolute demolition, which would mean charges had to be put in a tower, which would mean people would have to get in there at some point before this event. And sure enough, more Israelis, known as the Israeli art team or art students, were inside the building and had apparently the okay to go inside the inner core of the building because they wanted to do an art experiment where they take out a window and put a platform on the outside of the building and stand out there and have a helicopter come up and take a picture. And in the picture, not the helicopter picture, but they're taking pictures of themselves inside there. There's a stuff on the wall that looks like kind of this cardboard wrapping type stuff. And it's got a part number on it, a very large part number. And a lady had looked this up the part number and said, "Oh my goodness, this is a part number for explosive fuse material." I rest my case. We're not going to get into that right now in this video. I'm done with that one. This is not the Israel we're talking about. So I don't like the fact that Trump is, I'm with Netanyahu. I'm with Trump. You got it wrong, buddy. So anyways, Israel lashed out at the Obama administration, quote, "Friends, don't act that way," end quote, after Ambassador Powell abstained or refused to vote or veto as the United Nations passed a resolution demanding Israel stop settlement building on occupied Palestinian territory. As the New York Times notes, the administration's decision not to veto the measure broke a long-standing American tradition of serving as Israel's sturdiest diplomatic shield and defied extraordinary pressure from President-elect Donald Trump. The administration's decision not to veto the measure came a day after Mr. Trump personally intervened to keep the draft measure proposed by Egypt from coming to a vote on Thursday as scheduled. Mr. Trump's aides said he spoke to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Both men also spoke to the Egyptian president and had him postpone the vote. But in a show of mounting frustration, a group of other countries on the 15-member Security Council, all of them relatively powerless temporary members with rotating in and out every 2 years, snatched the resolution away from Egypt and put it up for a vote Friday afternoon. And remember, countries on the 15-member Security Council. How many voted in favor? 14 votes in favor, with the United States abstaining, and it passed. Ambassador Power, is that Austin Powers? Oh no, it's not plural, it's just Power, not Austin Powers, sorry. Ambassador Power, who does number 2 work for? Power tried to explain herself. Yes, that's Samantha Power. She says, Power quotes Reagan in defense of U.S. abstention on UN vote. Power says vote was not straightforward for U.S. Power says Israel still treated differently at the UN. Power can't champion settlements and two-state solution too, and UN resolution too narrowly focused on settlements. So, back to thehill.com. The U.S. had the ability to veto the resolution, but abstained from doing so, despite pressure from President-elect Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And I'm going to tell you about a little Webbot prediction from a long time ago regarding Israel and the surrounding countries, which now appears to be flashing in my brain as this is now definitely a possibility. Didn't seem like it was all these years. Now it sure enough does. The Obama administration, and I'm going to tell you that in a second, the Obama administration's decision to let it pass represents a break from the long-standing U.S. policy of shielding Israel from UN reproaches. Israel's settlements have been seen by critics as human rights violations, and some say they are an obstacle to achieving peace between Israel and the Palestinians. Trump argued that the UN resolution would be a bigger impediment to negotiations between the two sides. Quote, as the United States has long maintained, peace between the Israelis and Palestinians will only come through direct negotiations between the parties and not through the imposition of terms by the United Nations, the president-elect said in a statement Thursday. This puts Israel in a very poor negotiating position and is extremely unfair to all Israelis. I'm just going to stop there for a minute. It's extremely unfair to all Israelis, says Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, and I really wanted you to win this election, and you did. If this is unfair to the Israelis, what is it and has it been to the Palestinians? My goodness. So, I don't know what to make of that, but not liking it. So, I remember a Webbot report from a long time ago, and it was the kind of thing that showed up in the other reports too, but it has not come back in a long time. And that was something called the Israeli mistake. Now, you will recall, remember the peace flotillas that were going, Israel was doing something, and it may have been them against Palestine again, or some country. And a peace flotilla came in and were bringing in aid and supplies, and Israel boarded the boat and I think somehow shot somebody or two people or something, if I recall. This was a few years ago. And we were thinking at the time, maybe that's the Israeli mistake the Webbot's talking about. They're going to make a big mistake. It's going to be worldwide news. But the rest of the story from the Webbot wasn't even kind of close, which is why I think maybe it just hasn't happened yet. And the story from the Webbot is that Israel, as you know, the rest of the Middle East doesn't really like Israel, okay? So Israel has always claimed that, and it's true. Iran is not a friend of Israel, but something along the lines of, it was, in the Webbot said it would either be like a joint U.S./Israeli attack somewhat on Iran facilities and whatnot. Some of them being targeted were nuclear facilities, or it would just be Israel with kind of like a little bit of support from the U.S. or something like that. But he said the data was showing that it would be an air type of invasion, so it would be an air attack from Israel against Iran. And surprisingly, we would be kind of in awe at the response and defensive measures that Iran had in place that said, whoa, we didn't know they were that capable. However, a few of the destined targets are hit by Israel in Iran. One of them happens to be, underground nuclear facility. Radiation's now spewing out in the area. And that would be why it was called the Israeli mistake. We didn't know that was down there. We didn't mean to do that. We attacked them, and everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, but you're shooting and missiles at them, of course. Of course you knew it was going to happen. No, we didn't know. We didn't know it was a nuclear facility. And now there's, poisonous radioactivity in the area because of it. That was the original Webbot results or whatever of that time period, prediction, if you will. Now that they're saying, the UN, you're going to have to back off on your whole settlement stuff. It's going to piss the Israelis off. And I have a feeling, my opinion, my little feeling, but it's opinion, Israel is not going to abide by the UN resolution because no one's allowed to have nuclear weapons over there except Israel. Now, think about if you're one of Israel's neighbors, regardless of which country you are. Well, it doesn't matter if you're not even talking about Iran, just some of its neighbors. How come they're allowed to have nuclear weapons and we're not? So you could kind of make that argument. Iran could easily make the argument. Not that I'm sitting here saying I want to see a nuclear weapon capable Iran or any country. Honestly, I don't think any of us should have it. But you can't sit here and say, well, we can have it, but you can't, as far as the Middle East goes. These are all people in the same area in the Middle East, countries. So you're going to take Israel and say, you've done this for all these times. It's time to now back off. Not only are you backing off, you're going to have to destroy or just leave them as is and let the Palestinians move into these new buildings you've created all over the last decade and split the land, etc. Because that wasn't it Obama at some point that hinted a little while back that he kind of hinted around that I don't know the year. I think it was 64 or 65. I guess that was some kind of special year. Pre-64 border zones or whatever from the Palestine and Israel. Let's go back to the pre-64 treaty thing, whatever, is what I thought I heard him whispering about at one point. So that's what this may lead to, which again means all this land that Israel claims today is no longer, is null and void. They're not going to be happy about this. And Iran's probably going to stand up and say, hey, Palestine, we got your back now. Which is going to piss off Israel even more. And they're going to feel cornered. Everyone's on us now. We don't like this. And they may lash out. And again, they may do what the Webbot had said a long time ago. We're going to attack Iran. Oops. Hit some nuclear facilities. Sorry about that. United States, you screwed us over anyway, so we don't care. We're going to go in on ourselves. Don't know if that's how this is going to go. Sure hope not. Because what is happening in this UN resolution is actually the right thing. It's absolutely the right thing. Israel's not happy with this at all. Trump essentially is saying, hey, just relax. When I get in office, we'll do something about this. However, the resolution has already been put into place. It's already been voted on. It's a done deal. So even though we have veto power, I don't know necessarily that we'll be able to get that bit of legislation or whatever through the UN to even get a vote on it. Not sure how that may work, but this is my spider senses, if you will. My radar's telling me Middle East, wartime. I've been telling you about this for a while. Martin Armstrong's economic confidence model has been talking about for a long time. 2017, the war card is absolutely in play in our model, he said. It wasn't before, but it is. In other words, previous years it wasn't showing it. Not 2017 is the year it shows up, in our model saying it. So we have a big war. Who's the man you want to go to war? What is Trump? I will wipe ISIS off the face of the earth. If we go into a country and we, to bail them out, we're going to take their oil. You're not going to have a choice. We're going to take their oil, is what he's saying. He's got an oil man, Mr. Tillerson or Tiller, whatever his name is, Rex Tillerson, I can't think of his last name, the Exxon guy, who's now going to be the Secretary of State. These are some worrisome things, if I don't mind saying so myself. So maybe, just maybe, they're definitely gearing up for war. And maybe we actually all, including myself, got super duper played where we're concerned about Hillary. They pick somebody else that's going to handle business for them. We don't care about the economy. We don't care about that stuff. We got a war coming. We know just who we want. At the same time, Hillary would do it, right? She would do exactly what they told her to do. So again, there's, whatever. We're going to have to sit back and watch this one. We'll see. Take care.